Hi, everybody. Will Alexander here with this week's interview chair. On the chair this week, should I actually see the throne this week, because it's Esther Joseph, probably the queen of Gordon setters. So sit back and relax and listen to Esther for an hour. Hi, everybody. And today on the interview chair, we have Esther Joseph from, I don't want to say down under, but from Australia, because that down under sounds so typical.
Down under's fine.
I know, it just sounds so typical, though. Gordon setter breeder and pug breeder as well, right?
Mhm.
And from Tri-Setter, like 50 years. I won't go 50 odd years. I'll go 50 years. Hi, Esther. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Will.
It's good to see you.
Thank you. Same to you. You're looking very well.
You as well, because it's early morning there.
Long hair in the COVID.
Oh, I wish I had long hair. I don't have any hair. So how are things treating you both down there? How's Michael?
Yeah, Michael's very well. Yes, we're good. We're pretty COVID free in our country.
Oh, good.
Our little island, but unfortunately, it just means we can't travel. Can't get out of Australia even if we wanted to.
Is Michael beside you still?
Yeah, he's still here.
Say hi, Michael. Stick your head in and say hello.
Hello, everybody.
It's not that cold here.
I
know. Well, it's good to see you as well, Michael.
Yeah, really great catching up with you. It's been a long time since we've been able to have a talk.
This crazy world of ours right now. Okay, let's get started then. I'm going to ask you the same question I always start off with. I want to know how old you were and how you got started in our world of the sport of dogs. So it's all yours, Esther.
Oh, well, yeah. I got started in the world of sporting dogs when I was probably 21. I grew up with a border collie, but then I received a 21st present from a very good friend of mine of an Irish setter.
Oh.
And this is just somebody who went out and bought an Irish setter from a breeder, and he informed me that this is a pedigree dog. It's a really good dog. You'll be able to show it. So anyway, everybody's heard that sort of a story. I looked at this dog and it looked wonderful, Irish setter. So I proceeded to get interested and got into showing, and realised after a while that I didn't have a fantastic Irish setter. You know, his head wasn't very good breed type, but I managed to present him really well, and I became quite a good handler of him. And one very well-known judge over here, excuse me, David Roach, said to me once after I'd shown, he said, "You've trained that dog so well. He's got a front that a bus could drive through it, but not many judges pick up on it because you twist him around the other way, and I only ever get to look at his back end." So, yeah, and of course
David.
Pardon?
David was a great judge.
Yes, absolutely. And I think from having the Irish setter, I got interested in setters, and I then tried to get a Gordon setter. There weren't very many being shown in Australia, very few, and it was really extremely hard. And I ended up getting an English setter and then a Gordon setter. Basically around the same time, I had an English and the Gordon as puppies around the same time. And it was interesting because that's how I've got my kennel prefix, tri-setter, because I had the 3 setters. So I registered that as a prefix and sort of bred litters of, I didn't breed any Irish setter litters, but I bred English setter litters and Gordon setter litters, and showed the Irish. And I had another Irish, but my first Irish was my big top winning dog and made him an Australian champion.
Right. I didn't know you had English setters as well. I didn't know you had an Irish setter for that matter, but I didn't know you bred English setters.
Yeah, I had English setters.
What year did you breed English setters?
Pardon?
What year did you breed English setters?
Around, I think, yeah, in the 70s. In the 70s, yeah. I went over to my husband was in the Navy, and he got posted to Norfolk, Virginia. And while I was over there, I was living down in Norfolk, Virginia, and I used to travel up to Mississauga in Canada, where my sister-in-law lived.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
That's just down the road.
I spent 3 months living over there, and I went to the setter specialty at the Garden, and there was a absolutely beautiful English setter there being shown at the time, and I can't think of the prefix, but it was something tapestry. She was quite a dark blue, quite heavily marked, but beautifully marked. Just a lovely English setter. So yeah, so I've bred a number of English setters, had some very good top winning English setters as well.
I had no idea. Where did you start? Where did your line start in English setters? Did you bring
from Winella Blue. I had a bitch. My first bitch was called Winella Blue Malachy. Okay. So Winella and Whernside were two of the English setters that two of the top kennels in Victoria at that time in Australia. Yeah, or in Victoria anyway. Yeah.
And then, how did you start on the Gordons then? Well, how long? How long did you breed the English setters for? When did you stop?
Oh, gee whiz! I think probably my last English setter litters were.
I'm testing you a lot.
20 years ago. Yeah, I think. Would you say, Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 20. Yep. Yep. So had some quite good success with some of my English.
Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, I have no idea. How about that?
Yeah.
So Gordon setters. Let's move on to the mighty.
And in amongst all that too, I did have an American cocker.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
We all did.
Who knows why? Because American cockers weren't a reasonably new breed to Australia. We had two people over here that had imported from America, and I ended up getting a puppy from the two. And I was a black, solid black, really beautiful presentation. I nearly went demented trying to, present this one, and had to go to friends in New South Wales, Edwina and Erica Thomas, who bred American cockers back then, and I used to send him to them, and they'd do his saddle for me or his back for me and everything. But I learned pretty quickly that there's a lot of work, but unfortunately I had American cocker and then I had a baby.
Oh.
And very, very hard to keep American cocker in coat and a baby. All of those things was too much hard work for me, just on my own. So sure. American cocker, we showed him and everything, but I had a lot of fun, made him up, got his title, but didn't continue on.
All right, let's get into the Gordon.
Gordon setters.
Yes.
So I managed to find what I considered a really lovely litter in Melbourne. I got some probably more, I got experienced setter breeders. I had a setter breeder come with me, an Irish setter breeder. Her name was Evelyn Peggy. She came with me to have a look at the litter. I hadn't had anything to do with Gordon setter litters. So we picked a puppy, and I look back now, probably not what I would pick now, but I picked a puppy, but she was a good sound bitch. She was my foundation bitch. Her name was Field Pride Blue Carly. And of course I went on from there, and then wasn't that I showed her all the way through a title. She did, average winning, nothing really big. And then we had an American import came to Australia, and I used him, and he really put a lovely stamp on my dogs. That was Sutherland Hallmark, and he put a lovely stamp on my dogs to start off with, and I continued on there. I did what I would consider quite a bit of line breeding, and really developed a style of dog that I really liked. So trying to keep the soundness and a style, and keeping the Gordon setter type.
Well, now, what philosophy did you use when you were breeding this? Because you've been so successful, you must have had some blueprint.
Oh, look, I really knew what I liked, and I guess every time you breed a litter, you're trying to improve on the last. And I think it's, I assess. I really don't assess puppies until they're 8 weeks old. I'll look at them running around. I don't even like to stack them up or anything. And then at 8 weeks is when I stack them up, look at them, and I still maintain if they've got it at 8 weeks, they'll have it. They may lose it over that first 12 months, but it'll come back. But if you've got a puppy and you're stacking it up and you're saying, oh, that top line will settle down when it gets bigger, it never does, in my opinion. Or the tail sits a bit low, it'll come up. Or no, what you get at 8 weeks is what you get. Sometimes I'll have probably two or three puppies that I really like, and we refer to it in Australia as running them on. So
we say the same thing.
Keep them and run them on, and as they just continue on, you sort of think, well, yep, I can. They either that usually sorts themselves out.
Mm-hmm. What about outcrosses? Did you go out and watch? Well, you must have at some point.
Oh, well, we had to outcross. We had virtually no Gordon setters here compared to what was in America, and and that's where, and England, England being where your Gordon setters originally, that's the origin of the breed, and English. I imported dogs from England. Unfortunately, some of the dogs are beautiful breed type, but really didn't have the style that you. Well, when I say the style that I was looking for, but it could introduce the lovely, good, excellent breed types. Some of their heads, their colour, and everything. One thing I found that with the Gordons is that we had excellent colour in Australia,
for sure.
And unfortunately, with introduction of some of the American, introducing some American lines, we got a lot more black in our tan. And but you have to sacrifice some things to get other things, because you can improve on that.
Oh, for sure. What were some of the dogs that you looked at, even if you didn't use them, but dogs that you looked forward to seeing or using in your line, or some of the dogs in the past? I don't want to do dogs that are around now. So
no, dogs. See, we had such a small gene pool that we really didn't. We didn't go out of Australia. We used the dogs within Australia. So the American dog that came into Australia, he was used by probably all the top breeders in Australia, and then we would probably go then to their lines and use him and tie him back in that way.
Okay. Wow, you sure have been successful. You stamped a look on the breed. I can always tell one of your dogs.
Yeah. See, in Australia too, we had a lot of dogs that were working style, so that they were entirely different to your working style in the States. Oh, sorry, I keep referring to you as
it's fine.
The States, but to the American working style, some of them which are quite a small Gordon setter, and they want the speed and everything. A working field dog or gun dog, as we refer to them in Canada or America, are entirely different than the dogs in England. The dogs in England virtually work out in the field one day and then go to the show the next day.
Okay.
Because they're the same dog.
That's the way I think it should be, really. So
it is. That's right. But they're not in North America.
So the dog you sent over, Player, was like that.
Well, Player, he actually
he could do everything.
Yeah, he look, he turned out to be a fabulous dog that worked and everything. And the excuse me, the original dog that I used that came from America, Sutherland Hallmark, he was he wasn't a big dog. He was a smaller style of dog, correct size, now correct height and everything, but he wasn't a big dog. But he produced well with our lines.
Well, and a lot of people over here make a mistake about how big the Gordon setter should be height wise. I think they're looking exactly. I argue with them all the time, but
I think this is not. Excuse me. I think this is across the board, though, Will, with many breeds. Bigger is better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got, I've seen it so many times, even with judging, you've got 3 or 4 dogs lined up of equal, let's say of equal quality. They'll go for the bigger dog rather than going for the correct size dog. And it's quite often and I say to the trainee judges that I'm involved in judges training here, sometimes you've got to say that, this dog is built for a purpose. Can it do its job? Don't let it get oversized.
Right.
Can't do its job then.
Exactly. If we get some of them that are so big over here, they just look cumbersome, and I don't think the Gordon setter should ever look cumbersome. So.
No, and they shouldn't look like a Clydesdale either.
No, exactly.
They keep forgetting that it's a weight carrying hunter, and a weight carrying hunter is normally a thoroughbred horse that can carry the weight and go out. Yeah,
that makes perfect sense, and more people need to understand. Non-gun dog people need to understand that when they're judging our group. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You
don't want big heavy heads, and the bigger the dog, the bigger everything becomes. They get jowly and not nice.
Yeah, I don't like. I try to explain it when I'm teaching people, because I didn't breed Gordon setters obviously, but I've had a lot to do with them, showing wise that you don't want them. You don't want a bloodhoundy looking Gordon setter.
No, not at all.
No. But it's so funny because they'll draw themselves to that heavy head, heavy fluid dog, and they'll think nothing.
Yep. There's got to be and over markings. You see, this is the other thing. When I'm at a national over in the nationals are the bigger nationals are in America. When I usually go over every year, I can look at the dogs and I can tell the ones that are be carrying the red gene because they're overcoloured.
They're overcoloured.
Yes, they're overcoloured. There's too much red on them. It comes in the wrong places.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Because I know we tend to have, we were talking about earlier, more a muddier look to some of our Gordon setters. I like the bright colors that Australia tends to.
Yeah, that's what they should be, a good clear mahogany color on their face, but you don't want them with great big, you'll see them.
I'll see them.
You will see them.
Oh, for sure.
Especially if you start judging.
So how long have you been judging now?
20 20 more years. Yeah.
What made you decide? You just thought it was the natural progression?
Unlike, yes, I think a natural progression. Unlike in America, we can judge and show. So because we don't have professional handlers, so we haven't got that.
Can still show over here. They can only show their own dogs. That's all. So.
Yeah, well, so some of them would have to be having a very big, long lot of dogs, then, wouldn't they? Owning a lot. Yeah, no, I think it was just I wanted to get my Gordon license because it was something that I really felt that if I'd love to judge my own breed in England. Mm-hmm. So that was my main aim. And at the time, there was a judge, John Thompson, who's a all breeds judge here in Australia. And I was a bit influenced by Max Winch and David Roach because they used to, I had a lot to do with them. And they said, don't just go for go for your whole gun dog group. Don't just do the breed, So, because in Australia, you do the whole group at once, not sections of breeds. So you go for, and I just thought, oh, it's just too much. And, it was difficult. But, you're in the group so much. I failed my practical exam twice before I got my, license and I failed it on my own breeds, Irish setters, English setters. I had, I couldn't see the forest for the trees. And that's the problem when sometimes you don't take the overall picture. You hone in on certain things. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so
it's it was. True, yeah. I think that's natural to a lot of us, though, especially when we're like I grew up an Irish setter, so I have certain things that I have a hard time looking by because that's the way I was taught. But you do need to stand back and look at the entire picture, and I'm hoping I can do that. But I just know throughout what I've done in the sweepstakes and whatnot, I know I have certain things that bother me, and I think it's just going to always be there. I'm just going to have to overlook it and train my eye not to send that message to my brain.
Well, and it's really interesting, and that is something you tend to do, because I think what happens is that I was judging. 3, 1, 0, 1.
That Mike trying to call you? No.
Michael can't stop the phone now. I was judging at the garden specialties, and I judged a Gordon setter specialty, and it was interesting because I was judging and I was looking things for as a breeder. Mm-hmm. So as I was going over some of the Gordons, when I was mouthing, I was looking down the sides. And so I was told later, everybody said, oh, look,
what is she doing?
Tooth fairy. Yes, and it really wasn't anything to do with that, because I was interested, because we were having, in Australia here, and I noticed that we were having some problems with some of our dogs coming through, because I had imported dogs to Europe, and they have to have full dentition to go to Europe, because that's very important. We were missing P1s, premolars, P1s and P2s. And I was just and so I was checking as an overall thing on all the setter breeds of how many dogs in the setters have this problem. Mm-hmm. And I was quite surprised. There's a lot.
I bet all the handlers were like, oh my God, what is she doing?
Yeah, and then they were thinking, what is she doing? Made no decision. It had nothing to do with my decision of the dog, because as long as it had the bite that the standard calls for, that was important to me. Yep. But it was interesting that that's the way people sort of were watching me think, oh, what is she doing? Is she counting teeth? No, I wasn't counting teeth.
Oh, I'm sure. I know.
You'll find that when you are a breeder of things, certain things and that's hard to get out of your head, because you're thinking, and when you're training new people to judge too, and how important the jaw is, and why they do actually have to have full dentition, is because if you keep losing the teeth and you don't produce, you lose the strength of underjaw, and the dog still has to carry a bird.
Right.
Some of them, some of them, not all the breeds, but some of the breeds do have to carry a bird. So, if they haven't got the correct jaw, they can't do it,
Well, yeah, I'm sure like you said, over time, if they have less and less teeth as generations go on, they are going to lose that under jaw. That's only natural. So just the way it.
And especially if I was breeding dogs that that went to Europe, that were sold in Europe or went over there to live with sold and friends that were going to be shown in Europe. A puppy would have to wait until it had all its teeth through to make sure they had full dentition before they could go.
Wow.
So you're sort of running it on longer than you would normally run a dog on, just to make sure that their bites were perfect, because unfortunately it's a big part of their judging in Europe.
You've judged 20 odd years, and I always throw in odd, I'm sorry, 20 plus years. Over the years, what is there certain dogs that you wished you could have been a part of that you've seen over the years that you weren't? Doesn't have to necessarily be Gordon's, could be any breed. What dog just stands out to you and made a stamp in your breed type in your head? Or
oh, there was. I judged a really lovely OES, Old English Sheepdog, in, I think it was Canfield. He was just beautiful, strength, head, and everything. It was, yeah, and that sometimes you come across dogs that really, make you sort of, oh, this is fabulous. You've seen a dog, and another dogs that I've seen the best dogs I've seen in around the world have been in America, and I think in Canada it was boxers, it's boxers with what I consider the correct beautiful bite. That's a beautiful strong underjaw and the face, and really lovely. And I was in charge of our utility group here as judges training, and one day I judged, and I asked after, could I please take photos of the mouth and the jaw so I could show it to trainees to say, don't at least know what you should be seeing. You may not see it in your lifetime, but it can be done, and this is correct, not this twisting and everything that's in some of these mouths,
It's amazing when you see it. You can almost see it without opening the mouth. You can see how.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, beautiful
to see.
And I don't even think it's used in our standard anymore. It used to say the human eyes, their eyes were like humans, they are that, just a beautiful, beautiful face. And so, and I think another dog that I was very impressed with was Rufus, which was a pug that I judged and fell in love with this dog and thought he was beautiful. And he was, I actually sort of said, oh, I'd really like to buy this dog. Well, I had no chance of doing that. But they had showed me a son, and I bought his son, and I've still got him now. He's 11 and a half. And, it was just a pug that I judged that I had no idea. And I went to the show the next morning, and I had judged him the day before, and I went early. I wasn't judging until later, and Michael hadn't come with me. And I went up and I spoke to the handler and said, I'm really interested in the pug. And, and she said, well, nobody's getting him, of course. And she said, but the breeders are here, which was Phil Fisher. And she said, have a chat to him. He's got some sons, and he actually brought the puppies out, and they weren't puppies, they were nearly 12 months, and showed me. And I said, oh, I really love this boy here, would you sell him? And he said yes, not knowing. I don't even think he really realised that Yes, that sounds great, but how does he get to Australia? He doesn't pop on an aeroplane like that. And Michael came later and I said, I bought a pug. And he sort of went, oh, no.
So when did you start in pugs? Was that your start?
Oh, no. I had a Gordon setter, probably about 30. Yeah. He was a top winning dog, and a friend of mine got a pug, and he asked me to handle the pug. So I started handling these pugs just at shows for him, just because he didn't show, and that was my first introduction. So that was probably 35 years ago. Yeah.
What you have?
But I really didn't get into getting them myself until I realised that these legs aren't going to hold me up forever. I need to get something smaller. I can't run forever.
You're still running around with Gordon setters. I see it all the time.
Oh, yeah, I don't think so. Not for much longer, unfortunately.
Now, what about the dogs that you sent over to America that made such an impact? Can you talk to me about those dogs?
Well, there was the first one being Colleen O'Brien. She asked, she got in touch with me and asked me about getting semen from one of my dogs, his Nirvana at the time. And we sent semen and it didn't work. And then I think she tried a couple of times and it didn't work. And I think we were talking one day and she made a throwaway comment, well, you could send me the dog. And I must have had a very weak moment, and I said I would. So he went over there, and Kristen Kowalski she was handling for Colleen, and Dottie, who backed the dog. It's Dottie and her husband. They, had Nirvana over there, and that's where the first dog that went to America.
He blew us all away. I remember. So.
Yeah, so I mean, he could do no more in Australia.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing. That's unlike I found in America, or maybe in Canada. I'm not too sure if it's the same in Canada, but they bring a dog out, they introduce him, and then they probably start campaigning for 2 years. Then the dog's done, and you don't see them again. Well, in Australia, you start when they're 3 months old and the dog's done when they die, sort of thing. So you're out there showing, while the dog. Well, Nirvana was just he would have kept going, but there was nothing more he had to prove.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't have as many dog shows, so you're not going to go out being and showing to the same judges. They're not going to keep putting you up. The same as in America, they want to, something different.
Well, yeah, eventually you wear them out. There's no question.
Yeah.
But it was sure exciting when they came over. Everybody was excited to watch them. And the second dog?
That was Nike.
Yeah.
So another great, represent Nirvana having won a national over there, and Nike won the breed at the Garden, and so we had Nike and Nirvana, and there were some others in between that didn't make it, but produced well. So it's been really wonderful.
For sure, well, it's made a huge.
I mean, I'm sure the dogs were accepted really well within people.
No question, yeah.
And I think what's is where we were used to, people used the dog, but then they didn't continue on to try and go back into the lines.
Mm-hmm.
So using a dog for one generation, if you go back out again, you lose it straight away. You have to tie it.
To carry on.
Back. Yeah. If you want to keep with that style.
So that'll lead me right into my next question. What advice would you give a breeder?
A
new breeder. Someone that just
a new breeder. I think for a new breeder, they definitely have to find know what they like. First of all, know the standard. You got no idea how many in Australia, how many breeders would not have a clue of what the standard calls for.
We have the same over here, trust me.
And it's the same, you know, they don't know. Sometimes they just breed dogs. But if you're a serious breeder, you need to know the standard. You need to read as much as you can on the breed, find out what it was bred for, find out all its downfalls, so you know what you could be, you know, how to improve and things like that. And talk to other breeders. Don't think you're the best. Go and talk to the more experienced ones that have been around for a long time. You know, sponge out all that knowledge that they've got and take it on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I do a part of my seminar is about choosing a mentor, which is the same idea, and I call it standing on the shoulders of giants. And if you choose correctly, you could have 50 to 100 years of experience talking to that one person, really. So
absolutely, and I find this even with our new judges. When I was training as a judge, we used to sit round the ring and we'd watch dogs and we'd talk to the breeders and we'd talk about the dogs constructively. It wasn't criticism, but I think now people are more critical. They're not talking the breeds constructively. They're not they're more criticizing than look, you know, look at that dog there, but what are its good points?
exactly. Well, it's easy. It's easier to see the bad points. Someone sitting at ringside that doesn't know anything about the dogs can pick out the bad points of most dogs.
And you know, you really don't start learning, I don't think, until I think one good thing is that the handlers, some handlers, I think, know probably more about dogs than breeders, because they're out there trying to trick the judge half the time. So they know the faults on all these dogs. So therefore, they are really good at knowing their breed, knowing how the breed should be, how the breed should run. Sometimes they haven't got a great dog, so they have to do the best with what they've got, but they know that the pace the dog should be, you know, gated at, and the how it should look. But I think this is where you just have to I've learned so much by being an all breeds judge and knowing all the other breeds comes into play with what I breed myself. Just different things, I think, you know, over the years.
And you answered my next question. Then my next question was, what advice did you have for an aspiring judge? So,
aspiring judges it's in Australia I think it is in Canada too. It's a self-learning program, so you get as much out of it as you want to put in it. So therefore, we have a system where the trainee judges have to go to shows, do critiques. So they have to critique the dogs. So they go over the dog, write a critique out, and then they have people like myself or other mentors or other people that have been licensed for a certain amount of time to read through their critique to see if they're talking about that particular dog they've just gone over, or they're writing about the standard.
Right.
So I think it's very, very hard to take the overall picture. I often say to them, you see the dogs coming in the assembly area, you'll look at all the dogs, and some dogs stand out to you straight away. So, you know, you're being watched. A good judge will watch you the whole time as you're in the assembly area, sometimes even before you're coming in. If that dog's being, you know, being spooky and an idiot before it comes on the ring, some judges are quite aware of that, and they can see whether the handler can pull it together or not, and, you know, and take it on board. But I think you have to talk to as many older breeders, experienced, not older as in age, but experienced breeders, find out the good points and bad points on the breed. You know, every dog, I would say to a trainee, okay, here's your dog. And I'd say, well, what do you think of this class of dogs? And they'll say, well, you know, they're, you know, really good. I said, well, would you give them a challenge, a CC? They'll say, yes. I said, well, that's good. So tell me the good points on these, you know, and every dog must have a good point. And if you like, because when you judge in Europe, you have to critique each dog. So you do have to find the good points. You can't just be negative. Even if the dog has got a wonderful temperament and a great coat, may not look like the breed, but you know, you have to try and train your eye and overall balance and construction. I think that's the hardest thing, I think, for some is to know what the overall balance is of the breed you are looking at. And then breed type. Know what the type you're looking for so that you can have that template in your mind. Mm-hmm. And hopefully you'll, you know, find it in a dog. You may not.
Well, exactly. Like we all have those, like you said, templates that are in my head of certain breeds I've seen over the years.
Yeah.
I have dogs that stand out, and when I see other dogs, and often I'll say, "Oh, that dog reminds me of so and so," and that's because it's in my head.
I was judging in Ireland once, and I was judging the utility or part of the utility group, your working group, and I had a dog de Bordeaux come in the ring, and he went round the ring, and I thought, oh, this is it was a reasonably new breed to Australia, had really not much experience on dog de Bordeaux. So went over the dog, and I really, really love this dog. I thought he's just got everything that I think the standard should be, you know. So came to doing the group, and I gave the dog de Bordeaux a group. Well, there was an enormous cheer, and I thought, oh, well, I've either put up the best pet or whatever.
Yeah.
So he went through and he went through to the best in show judge. And the best in show judge, he had a lovely lineup because it was FCI judging, so there were 10 groups out there. And he gave the dog de Bordeaux best in show. I was rapt, and he came up to me after and he said, well, I didn't know much about the dog de Bordeaux, but he said it was fantastic. And he said, and you must have really loved it to know, you know, you put it through to me. And I said, well done, that wasn't a great. But then we found out later on it was a top winning dog that had come over from Holland, and it was just so nice. Just sometimes some dogs do hit you, and they stand out, and you're really hoping that they are a great representation of their breed and not just a generic show dog. Mm-hmm. And this one was, yeah.
Well, that'd be exciting judging like that. So.
Yeah. Mm.
What can you tell me? You've had lots of success with your dogs, Esther. What are some of the wins that stand out in your mind?
Some of the wins, they would. Well, I guess. Yeah, I had a best in show at Adelaide Royal, which was really wonderful. Lots of specialty wins within Australia. Our gene, we don't have the specialty shows. We don't get the numbers like we don't have nationals to start off with because we haven't got enough in Australia of any of the set of breeds. They don't have any nationals. So we only have specialty shows, and the only states that run, well, no, New South Wales. In New South Wales, where is another very big dog community, there's not enough like Irish in New South Wales they don't have a specialty show there. English setters have one, Gordon setters have one. So in Australia, there are two There's a Gordon Setter Club in New South Wales and one in Victoria, and they have a specialty show. They have two in Sydney and one in Melbourne. So we've won a number of those and been very successful with that. What else? I think just general, just best in shows, all breeds. I think winning a best in show, all breeds is
amazing.
Great feat.
Your national win over here in America was nothing to sneeze at too. So.
Oh well. Which one? Yeah. So we've had we've been to and of course I've had a dog that my dog sired got runner-up and show at the World Dog Show, so in Italy. So that was at the last World Dog Show in Italy. So that was very exciting to be involved with that dog.
What was that dog's name?
That he was Ludster Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah. I recognize the name.
Freddie Frankenstein. Yeah. So that was just really wonderful, and his owners Ludo and Michele Evaldi, who live in Italy, she shows Irish Wolfhounds, Ludo, and that year she won she won with the Gordon, and did she win? I'm trying to think now whether it was that World Dog Show or another one where she was showed in the team event, and she had a team of, I think, 6 Irish Wolfhounds, one person.
Wow.
Handling, running them around. It was just the most brilliant thing to see in the big ring. It was just gorgeous.
I'm sure. I love that breed.
And a dog that I bred, I sent over to overseas to Europe. I showed at, and I've won CCs with the breed at the World Dog Show. So that's exciting because you've got big competition and you're against the European dogs. And another dog that in England in 2000, in the year 2000, they had a thing called Gordon's 2000, and they had it was a big promotion of trying to get as many Gordon Setters to this show and everything. They had well, actually, they had an American judge. I can't even think of his name now. Had an American judge. At any rate, I had a dog that was living in Finland at the time, a bitch, and I went there. Went over to the. We went to. I think we met our Finnish friends in England, and I showed the bitch, and she won the. She went runner up in shows. So and an the Italian dog, not that particular one, Freddie. Another one that they've got. He won the dog challenge, and we won the bitch challenge. So we didn't upset a few people. Two European dogs winning the Gordon's 2000 in England. But it was good fun. It was lovely, and it was really nice to see all the dogs and everything.
Well, your dogs certainly deserve all the accolades they receive, that's for sure. I won't keep you much longer. I have one final question, Esther. If you could meet the 20-year-old Esther, what advice would you give her now?
Get better knees. Oh, gee whiz. Well, I don't know. My advice would have been to myself then would be to start judging earlier. Mm-hmm. I would have, lots of people had sort of said, why don't you take up judging? And I wasn't interested. And when I did start to get interested is when I started having a family. And so I had to then wait till my, had 3 children and got them out of the way, so I could then start concentrating on judging. So I think my advice, not much would have been different as far as showing or anything like that. I think I wouldn't change much there, but judging. I would have loved to have probably started judging earlier, because it just becomes harder and harder as you get older. Not that I think we're going to be going anywhere much soon. I mean, Australia, they're talking we won't get out of Australia until the end of 22. So
wow.
International, there's no international flights at all. We're just going to be locked in our little island.
Yeah.
By the time, and then hopefully, and I think then there'll be vaccination, obviously, rules and everything for people.
Yeah. Have you had vaccinations over there yet?
Well, let's see, once again, nobody, because there's no COVID here, people are really a little bit reluctant on getting vaccinated. We've had our first shot, which was AstraZeneca. And of course now, with some of the people saying, you can get blood clots. There's people saying, no, we want to wait for the Pfizer and all of this and that. But I mean, I don't care. I could get blood clots on an aeroplane or get run over tomorrow. And I think that's very important that we all get vaccinated, because I know we won't be able to travel even at all if we're not vaccinated. We have to have vaccinations to go to, and I've been to South Africa, you have to have extra vaccinations to be able to go to there. So the diseases that they have in the country that we don't have. But I think this is the only way the world is going to be able to get over this, is by vaccination.
I agree. I've had my first one and I have my second one coming up soon. So
we have 12 weeks before ours. How long before yours?
Well, for the garden, they want you vaccinated for Westminster. So I've decided I've got my second one coming up on the 25th, which was actually 3 weeks after my first one. So
see, what they wouldn't they do that in Australia? You have to have 12 weeks between the two.
Yeah.
But got the garden coming up, and that's scary. Do you find that scary for a lot of people going to be in the one place again?
I think as long as we follow protocols, we wear the masks, use common sense, it should all be just fine. And it's outside this year, so.
Yeah, well, that certainly helps. That's for sure.
For sure.
And as long as you don't get the Indian strain there, and what's happening in poor India at the moment, hideous.
Well, it was great catching up with you, Esther. It's good to see you. And Michael, I know he's still over there. I can hear him.
Just occasionally.
I really appreciate your time. And I can't wait to see you guys. I'm sure we'll see somewhere. Somewhere it's going to happen.
Somewhere it'll happen. Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah. Being positive.
Exactly.
One day we'll be able to leave our country again.
Yes, of course. All right, Esther. You have a good day. Thank you very
much. Thank you. Shall do. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Esther. It was great catching up with you and Michael. I hope to see you guys soon. If you like what we're doing here, make sure you press the like, share, and subscribe button. Don't forget, if you want to get a hold of me at willalexander@gmail.com. Or if you want to go just find out what's happening in Will's world, go to willalexander.net. Don't forget about the podcast. It's on every Thursday. You can find it on Stitcher, Apple, and Spotify. The Dog Show Drive with Will Alexander and Wayne Cavanaugh. I said my name first, Wayne.